This is the YOB ConvoCast, one-on-one conversations with your other brother's authors, community members, supporters, and friends.
What's up, friends, and welcome back finally at long last to the YOB ConvoCast, conversations with so many other brothers in this Your Other Brothers community. My name's Tom. We're a community navigating faith, homosexuality, and masculinity still together after 6 retreats now. And I'm so excited. This is one of my favorite episodes of the year that I get to do, where I look back on the wonderful weekend that was, which it's been a few weekends now. 2 or 3 now? I forget. Something like that. Enough of a time to catch my breath and exhale and collect myself and look back with a hint of wonder and delight and feel a smile curling to my face as I remember our 6th YOBBERS Retreat, these annual celebrations with our Patreon community members, some of them pledging for literally 6 retreats now. It's pretty wild, pretty crazy. I always love to talk about the retreat with somebody, and I asked this person, he's a new member of our leadership team, and he helped out with the worship sets, the music, the musical programming of this weekend, and I just thought it would be great. He's been on this show a few times now, and we're going all the way to sunny SoCal to talk to our other brother, Daniel, today. What's up, Daniel?
Hey, Tom. It's good to be here. And I actually have an update to my geographical location.
Whoa.
I didn't move, but I found out the city I live in, it's called La Mesa, and it's the jewel of the hills.
No, is it? No way.
It is. I drove by the city sign the other day. I was like, oh my gosh,
What?
I live in the jewel of the hills.
No
so there's another
way.
jewel to add to the geographical location.
Oh my gosh. I love that you were just sitting on that information ready to share it as soon as your mouth opened.
Yeah. Well, you said sunny California. I was like, oh, this is the chance right here. I'm going to update. I live in the jewel of the hills, not the Blue Ridge, you know.
The jewel of the Blue Ridge meets the jewel of the hills. Wow. You can bet I will be saving that. And basically you are forbidden from ever moving. You cannot leave.
Yeah, I know. I can't.
At least while you appear on a podcast production, maybe.
Yeah. There we go.
That is amazing. Thank you for blessing me with that information here today, and our listeners too.
Yes.
How are you doing post-retreat? Let's talk about our post-retreat selves. How are you doing post-retreat? You did so much good work. We're going to talk about the work that you did, Daniel. But yeah, I just want to know how you're doing after that event.
You know, I am doing well. Thank you for asking. I feel like I appropriately prepared mental and physical and temporal buffers for myself before and after. And it was an ease back into life on this side. It helps I'm not really going back to any commitments because my state of non-work, or Sabbathing, as I'm calling it, just means I was able to come back and go right back to making bread and watering my garden and, you know, watering my plants. And I've been doing a little bit of babysitting, but no, I got back and I jumped right into reading some books and sleeping in again and catching back up on the lost hours of, that good rest that we don't really get when we're out in the middle of nowhere, Georgia. So, man,
I love your extended Sabbath. What a beautiful season of life to be in right now. Enjoy the rest while you have it. And I always feel for the people, sometimes they have to do this, but the people who come to the retreat and they'll like get home at 2 a.m. that night from a late flight or something, and then they have to go to work like at 8 a.m. the next day. I feel so bad for those people, and I hope that they were able to segue back into normal life to some extent. Although I know it's not ideal, but that's good. I'm glad you're able to get back to your life.
Yeah, I do hear more and more people saying they'll take Monday off, they'll leave Sunday, take Monday off, or they'll leave Monday, take Tuesday off. So we know we're mentally prepared.
Yes, if you've gone to a few retreats now and you have the ability to take a day off before and or after, I think that's a good call. It's a good strategy. That would be my vote for everybody listening. This was how many retreats now? Minus the one that you got stranded in Las Vegas.
Yeah, we don't talk about that, but this would have been 4 if I had made that year.
Would have been 4. Okay.
So would have been 4. So this is my 3rd, but I've been attending or trying to attend for the last 4 retreats.
Yeah, we'll nudge you over the top. So over halfway now. You're over half of our retreats that you've been to. That's great.
Thank you.
This episode is always kind of tricky because I don't want to necessarily do a complete rundown of the retreat and like spoil it for anyone who's never been to one. Like I kind of want new people. I want to try to accomplish 2 things, which is in this episode, speak to the people who are listening who did go and like help them remember some things that hopefully they appreciate too, or maybe it helps them further process some things that they experienced and they get to remember it in a new light now as they listen to us talk about it. But then I also, and I do want to like enlighten some people and like not be totally like cultish as if this is like some big secret that we can't talk about what happens at the YOB retreat. Speaking of Las Vegas, like what happens at the YOB retreat stays at the YOB retreat. But I also want people to experience it. If they come for the first time, I kind of want them to go into it semi-blind and not know exactly what we're doing. Maybe have a vague idea of what we're doing, but not have a huge idea of what we're doing. Sure. So it's a fine line to walk, and we'll just see where the episode goes. I want to give you permission to say whatever you want about the retreat. I'll certainly give myself permission as well. And then I think at the end of the day, it'll be a mix of mysterious and specific, and that'll be good. I think it'll be good for all people listening to this episode. The first thing I wanted to ask you, because you are one of the newer members of our leadership team, and you've helped out with worship in the past, just helping out our leaders who lead that. So it's not like you've been totally not involved in years past, but this was definitely more front and center for you. So I wanted to know how that was for you. Was that like you got there early to help set up a little bit, and you certainly did a ton of prep work with all the musical boys planning these worship songs and liturgies and everything for the weekend. So I'm curious, just like from that side of things, before we get to your participant brain, like what was your leadership brain? What was that like throughout the weekend doing that for the first time?
Yeah, I think one of the Yobbers captured it well in like, I think one of our affirmations or a follow-up post on the Discord. We have such an ecumenical body, like such a diverse range of denominations, church experiences. So even within the like musical boys planning team, you could throw out a song or a hymn or a contemporary piece that's been around for a while and assume like, oh, everyone knows this. And within our group of like 5 musical people, we could see a song, but I've never heard of that. I have no idea what you're talking about. So just trying to pick music with that in mind, of within a group of 4 people who consider themselves musical, not knowing songs that we're trying to teach or sing with our body. But as you heard, and people who listen to the recording, everyone just sings, everyone joins in, they're willing to participate through their voices, which I think is beautiful. So sure, a little bit of stress and worry of like, are we introducing songs people know? Is this gonna are people gonna sing, or is it gonna just flop and no one knows what we're doing? Another Yobber, I don't think he's been on the podcast before, leading some of the songs, and they just have such a great heart to bring people into song and to lead strongly. So I think that helps a lot. Personally, or as a working man at the retreat, and I think you've talked about this before, I like having a role, but certainly it can quickly devolve into me being the role and not being there. So I'm aware that like I was helping with piano or with music or stuff, and that became a little bit of a role that I got kind of falling into. But there were still some really beautiful moments, and I enjoyed participating in that way. So maybe just finding ways to streamline it and make an hour and a half worth of music more accessible to us and the singers, because we don't really have time to practice or prepare anything. So unless we're doing it on our own, nothing really together though. So
yeah, I admire you guys for that, because it's almost like this is just not how I'm wired at all. Like I don't know what it takes to create music for people to sing and sing along to and lead and all that. And like someone brought it up, like at some point in the future, it would probably be beneficial to like give you guys a defined block of time to just like sing together, practice together, talk together, rather than just hoping you figure it out along the way, just like assuming it's basically like, hey, form a band and just like sync up right away. Yeah. Because that's what you're doing.
Well, it's just the question of production value. Are we going for campfire song, or are we going for, revoice level I don't know if you went or
conference
watched
level.
But
yeah.
Like the worship that they're doing is produced, it's prepared, it's high budget. And at a camp we don't need to go high budget, but It's nice knowing what you're doing and feeling confident that we can lead everyone well. But obviously the brothers step up. So
for what it was worth, you guys did a great job putting it together for a band that's never been together. You put it together, and Yeah, I mean, inevitably, we haven't had our leadership meeting. We're about to in a few days as of this recording. So you'll learn what the feedback was from this retreat as far as the musical feedback is a whole other level of feedback compared to the rest of the retreat feedback because everybody's got a hot take and I love it. This sounds like me saying I don't want the feedback because I do. I really do want the feedback. But every single year, it never fails. Like people are like, we need more hymns or we need more modern songs or we need more songs we know or we need more, and it's like,
yep.
For what it is, ecumenical, like it's such a great word, multi-denominational, diverse, whatever you want to call it. Like everyone's got a hot take on what the music should be and how to organize that for 45, 50 people is almost impossible. Like there is no way to please a solid chunk of people. But I thought what it was. We also did something new this year, which is we added like a couple extra spots in the schedule this weekend where we sang. And so people always want more songs and more singing every year too. And so it was easy for me to hand it off to you guys and say, hey, let's sing 20 songs this year instead of 10 or whatever the number wound up being. And easy for me to do, but then y'all delivered. And so I just commend you.
Well, maybe next year we'll just have a YOB hymnal where we take all the songs we've ever sung or that are on our playlist and just, print a little booklet,
Print a booklet.
Open up your YOB hymnals
my
to
gosh.
322. His eye is on the sparrow.
Future merch product. Order your YOB hymnals and bring them to the retreat. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I don't post this link publicly, but it is a private link for those that are in our community that if you want to enjoy our retreat worship through the years, all the way back to our first retreat, we have these songs recorded. They're not like super mastered. They're a little bit edited, but for what it is, it sounds like you're there. And I appreciate that element of having those voices endure through the years. So I hope everyone who's been to our retreat, you can check that out. Ask me for the link if you don't know where it is. But yeah, y'all did a great job. I was wondering, I was going to ask you real quick, like, cause I've never been a worship leader. I've never been on stage presenting music. Like where do you make that distinction? Like you're helping us participate in connecting with the Lord and like being up there, you were playing piano or keyboard the whole time. Like, do you feel like you're able to worship in that moment? Do you feel like you're doing a duty, doing a task, and then you kind of like, I don't know, what is your relationship with worship when you're leading or helping lead?
That's a great question, which could probably be its own podcast in and of itself. But I'll give
Let's
you
forget the rest of the retreat. Yeah.
And I think this actually will go back to maybe a conversation we'll have later about how you get involved with retreat, both being the leader and being a participant. I did read your blog this morning and there's some of those themes. So I think there's some similarities with worship, at least for me. I think some people naturally just find a connection when they're worshiping. When they're leading worship, they naturally find it to be worshipful for them. For me, I've found that it largely depends on the trust I have with the people I'm leading with or with the audience. So if I don't have that certainty or trust that I'm not going to like get criticized or perceive criticism or perceive, something that I'm failing to do right, then it quickly becomes a role. So I detach myself from what I'm doing so I can keep myself safe. And then those tend to be not very worshipful and they're more driven by, like fear or worry. I'm just doing the thing. But when I can like trust the group I'm in, and the people I'm singing and leading with, then I find myself more naturally just being able to worship. But that's me personally. I know that's not everyone. So yeah,
I'd be curious to talk to the other guys who led, playing, singing, all the other things. So, yeah, I guess shout out. I wanted to say, because I affirmed a couple of the guys who put this song in the playlist, but there's a song that I'd never heard of, which I saw that Shane and Shane sing it, called Yahweh parentheses Psalm 84 parentheses, and it has a line in there about even the sparrow finds a home, and it comes straight out of our basically our Yob theme verse, Psalm 84:3. And so when we started singing that, I really started to get emotional, tearing up about it because, I've said that line, I don't know how many dozens of times through the years on the podcast and elsewhere. But it's so different to sing it, to hear, and not only to sing it myself, but to hear my other brothers around me singing this line that's just become so meaningful to me personally. And I know to a lot of people, even the sparrow finds a home. And so that's just been on repeat for me lately. The last couple of weeks coming home from the retreat is just playing that song and taking me back to that beautiful environment of just being in this retreat location, which we went back to for the second year in a row. And it just really felt very it was very fitting. Like it felt like home. Like there was a physical manifestation of home this year that I haven't felt in many years now, just as far as the physical place that we were in. And so that was really moving as well. I appreciated that song inclusion. Whoever made the final decision on that, I appreciate you, whoever you are. It was good. It was beautiful. And that's now added to our Heart of a Brother playlist. I added that to our Heart of a Brother playlist, which is a public playlist that we have on YouTube and Spotify. So if you search Heart of a Brother, or if you go to our Your Other Brothers YouTube page or Spotify page, you should be able to find it there. So I'll link that in the description as well. But yeah, just a beautiful weekend musically. I appreciated all the efforts. So good. So good. I wanted to ask you, the only other thing I wanted to ask you, Daniel, was something else that you had a role in leading were our icebreakers prior to the event. And I will say, I'm going to affirm you again in a few days when we have our leadership meeting. But to my knowledge, I've been to all 6 retreats now. To my knowledge, my favorite icebreakers we've ever had. You led a couple other guys led a couple. I just thought it was fun. It was different. It was interactive. I mean, that's the nature of what an icebreaker is supposed to be. But it just felt successful. It felt timely. It felt like we were able to squeeze a lot into a short amount of time, mix people around, get people together, all as people were arriving and before we go off to dinner the first night of the retreat. So yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was really fun. It was fun to see you go into teacher mode and just be like in front of the class and using your voice and instructing us what to do and where to go. I thought you were in your element, and it was beautiful to see come together.
No, thank you. I also I coordinated orientation for my college, my senior year. So it's like teacher orientation for college, icebreakers at a gay men's retreat in the middle of the forest in Georgia. Like it all just comes together right there for sure. So I'm glad you
Your
enjoyed
life
it.
Experience led you to this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You did some YOB bingo. Do you want to share anything about YOB bingo? You gave us all these bingo cards and we had to interact with people to figure out where they fit on the bingo card.
Yeah.
That was fun.
That was something I'd done before. I think in like middle school, high school, and I hated it in high school. Like we had this mega like a teen retreat in my high school where dozens of schools from all over the state would come together and be like 400 high schoolers, which was just horrifying to me. Like I would purposely avoid those icebreakers when I was a kid. My parents would tell me to go to the icebreakers. I'd like take my bike and I'd go ride and I'd go hide somewhere else and not go to the icebreakers. But one year they did the bingo, and I feel like it's the perfect blend of you learn something about someone, but you don't have to have this like awkward exchange of I don't know what to say to you. Just I'm looking for this. Have you lost a tooth in the have you broken a bone? Have you run a marathon? Are you straight? That's just the normal questions you ask people when you meet them. So it was kind of fun. Yeah. Having a little watching people.
Do you wear a pair of thieves?
Yeah.
There are some good inside jokes for YOB. Yeah. There's some generic ones like you just said, but then there's some good like YOB centric, YOB specific ones that I appreciated as well.
Well, I think we could collect more in the future years. But something I did realize was like, oh yeah, if you're only going to allow someone to fill one bingo space, then it can't be too niche, because some people do all the things and other people don't do any of them. Like I haven't bought a pair of feeds, I haven't gone to Europe retreat yet. I haven't, whatever the thing is. So, but I think we can sprinkle in more YOB specific bingo things over the years for sure.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed that very much. One of my favorite moments from that though was when somebody thought they had a bingo and I looked at what they had. And I was like, do you understand what we're doing? And it was not a bingo. And so we had to invalidate his bingo call and kept the game going. Yeah, we were very specific about what the rules were, and we followed through on them. So
yes, that's what we do.
We're not just gonna give out participation trophies here. No.
This is the real competition right here.
Yeah, nice to have a little playful competition. Yeah. We had another icebreaker that this person's not here, but he did like this hot seat game that I'm not familiar with from Ellen's show, I guess. But basically it'd be like 5 people come up and then 5 facts are presented on whiteboards, and you have to match the fact with the person who presented that fact, because he gathered these facts before the retreat. And I just thought that was really fun too, because there were some that were like so specific and so weird.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I can't even think about it. What one of those things were.
Bringing someone back to life after a plane crash, I believe. Whizzing.
Oh my gosh!
Across what's that called when you're on a harness going over like a cavern?
whizzing on a zip line, which is
line,
not
right.
not urinating. Whizzing as in like making the sound, like whizzing, going across.
Oh,
the
is that
zip
what it
line.
was?
Do you not? Yeah. So that there was confusion at the time that someone thought like you
Yeah.
peed off a zip line. What? Because
That's
I
what
mean,
I
that's also
presumed.
very unique. But
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
whizzing as you whizzed across
Oh, yeah.
you did not whiz as in pee. But
Oh,
anyway,
stuff.
it was good to, some people got really into that. It was like Family Feud, like good answer. We're trying to encourage people to match up the right fact with the right person. So
I don't think
those
we
are
got
really
more
fun.
than like 2 or 3 right though. Anytime.
No,
like,
we were horrible. Whoever
yeah.
played we were never really great at it, but it was a fun learning experience of learning these niche facts. Shout out to Simon's British accent about these facts with our yobbers. So yeah, I just thought that was really fun. That got us into a good headspace with the retreat. I enjoyed. A+, from my vantage point, A+ icebreakers this year. 2025 gonna have a lot to live up to, trying to match the energy of those icebreakers.
In general, one of the highlights for me, and maybe you wanted to bring this up as well, but I really did love the solo time. We doubled our solo time this year, and removed some other horrendous activities. I don't know if we want to bring that up later or not, but
it's going to be a sore spot for some people. But yes, we did.
So doubling the solo time was great because one of the themes I sort of realized, and I think this kind of goes into the at-home theme as well. Like I just live a very disintegrated life. When I'm uncomfortable, I'll just dissociate or kind of, like I mentioned with worship, remove myself to save myself. And I found with like the solo time, it was a great way to kind of recenter, percolate my own thoughts. But then some of those times sprinkled right into tribe time and just hearing the reflections from everyone, and the different experiences, the different interpretations, and the use of the imagery of this bird cage for that prompt of at home was really, really interesting. So I know you mentioned it briefly on your blog, but do you want to flesh out more your experience with that, like how you came to make it up and what was your interpretation of it?
Yeah, it was my goal to write the first retreat blog, and we'll have a few other retreat blogs coming this month from other retreat attendees. So y'all stay tuned to our blog, but I'll post a link to my blog, which kicks off this retreat blog series here in November. But yeah, I had a vision for a birdcage, and I don't know, I have these visions. I don't think I'm a very clairvoyant person, to be honest. It's not like I'm some person who always sees visions and has dreams and whatever. Oftentimes I forget my dreams. I have no idea what I dreamt. I just remember, oh, that was a weird dream. Something weird happened. But I don't know. I just couldn't shake, like 6 months ago, probably 6 or 8 months ago, like this image of a birdcage, just trying to think of, I'm always like in retreat decor mode. Like when I go to antique shops, I enjoy going to thrift stores or antique shops. And I'm always just kind of looking for sparrowy bird type things, just like, oh, what's kind of a cool rustic looking thing that I can display at the retreat. And so that's honestly all it was at first, was like, oh, how come we don't have like a legit bird cage? Like, I feel like that would be, we have a nest. We have a huge nest. You can see it in my background, Daniel. But like, so we've had this huge nest for a few years now, serving as our kinship icon for our kinship value. But I thought about getting a bird cage. And so I was just kind of always looking on Facebook Marketplace and eBay and some other or just driving around, going to antique stores and just seeing, are there any bird cages out there that aren't $500? Like what is, why are bird cages so expensive? FYI. I don't know why some of them are like crazy, but then I found one for $40 and met this kooky old lady in a parking lot, and she sold it to me with her gigantic guard dog barking at me. So that was fun. And then I still didn't really know what I wanted to use it for, but then this vision, honestly, I have to thank artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence helped me out huge here, because I just started going to this AI image generator and just started typing in birdcage, sparrow in a birdcage or something like that, or locked in a birdcage, trapped in a birdcage. I started typing all these prompts, and it would spit out these images, and some of them were like really stupid and really ridiculous looking, but there were a few that were just like, oh, there was something really like profound about it. When I saw this one, and I posted it in my blog, about a sparrow in a birdcage, and there's a big lock on the door, and there's a key dangling from the top, and there's 2 sparrows flying freely in the background, and there's something in that I just felt was resonant. And as we were doing this podcast series throughout the summer at home, eventually we landed on that theme with a question mark, at home, as we start to ponder because so many people have said over the years that the retreat feels like home, or it feels like a family reunion. It feels like a glimpse of home, language of that nature. And so I thought we could like play with that a little bit, and not only about the retreat, but about our own lives and about our sexuality, our masculinity, our faith. Like, where do we feel at home? Where do we feel like we fit in, belong, safe, comfortable? And where do we feel isolated? Where do we feel trapped? Where do we feel imprisoned even? And the birdcage is just such an interesting metaphor of a place that is a home. Like, that's what it's designed for. It's designed to be a home for a bird. But looked at another way, you might think that that's a prison, or that's a cage, or that's, I mean, there's literally the word cage in there, which has a negative connotation, I feel like, by and large. So like, what do you do when your home is actually a cage, or you feel caged? And I don't know. So I just had all those thoughts about it. And I thought, like, you know, we have an artistic community, and like, there's this one guy in particular that I reached out to. I was like, hey, if I told you this, 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 and this, could you do this? And he was so gracious and came early to the retreat to set it up. And so shout out to him. He did a great job I gave him all the tools, and he just designed it and dressed it up better than I could have ever done. And so we were looking at it all weekend, and you mentioned the solo time. And I thought that would be really great for us to just like look at this thing, process it. What do we think? What do we feel? What do we see? And then not only process it by ourselves, but I think the magic is then coming back into a group and sharing some of those processings. And we were on different tribes, so I don't know what your tribe discussion was like, but mine was, I mean, about as A+ of a conversation as I could have hoped for, talking about this bird cage, which maybe some people looked at it and they're like, I don't know, it's a bird in a cage and there's rocks on the ground, and what, I don't know what this is all about. But we had some really great conversations about it.
I love that you defended the intuitive, image-oriented people every time you introduced this practice of like, let's reflect. Because I definitely think more in images, more in abstractions. I'm definitely more intuitive. And I was curious, like, would the sensors in the group, in my tribe, or the sensors in general take things away? But everyone either attached to something specific, and they correlated their experience to something specific, or they withdrew out images and ideas. And so hearing everyone kind of like sit down, and we had people who felt like they were maybe more, like you were saying, trapped in a cage, felt, people who saw this lock that could be opened, or that maybe this was a safe space, like it was actually a home, it was protecting, the idea of it actually being a cage of protection. And then I know I'll share more of my own experience was this feeling of seeing birds outside the cage and in the cage. And the reality is, like, a sparrow is not a house bird, right? Like, you don't keep a sparrow as a pet. So maybe in my mind, that I saw that more as a lock or a cage that's containing a sparrow, and therefore I resonated more with the sparrows on the outside. But it was interesting, because I think for me the conviction, or the challenge was, I saw the sparrow on the outside, and I saw the sparrow sort of thinking more highly of itself because it wasn't trapped in the cage, and I definitely see like how imagery of safety or trap or being free, but ultimately for me, like that free sparrow didn't have necessarily a place to lay its head in that image. It didn't necessarily have a home. And so for me, that was kind of the convicting, do I look at other people's trappedness and just say, I'm not that, I'll keep myself away, I'll sort of detach and stay free and run away to California and be
it's the jewel of the hills.
Jewel of the hills, exactly. So is escapism just as much not a home as it is being, free? So I loved that imagery. I loved the dialogue with all my tribe, and conversations afterwards too.
No, I love that you focused on the outside. I focused on the inside, and so many people everywhere in between focused elsewhere too. Like, some people were even looking at like, and I saw the pine cones on I was like, there were pine cones. I didn't even see the pine cones, but there were pine cones apparently on the table that was set up. So people saw all kinds of things, all kinds of details in it. And it just made me smile to no end. Not only the conversations I had at the retreat, but we had a Zoom debrief after the retreat, and some more guys shared at that. And I've just enjoyed so much hearing what people saw in it. And for anyone that's curious, if you check out my blog, I put a bunch of photos of the art piece there. So if you want to check it out visually, if you didn't go, you want to check it out, it's on my blog. What you said about one sparrow on the outside who's like too prideful or feels too good about himself to like enter into the cage. Like, I think that's such an interesting perspective of like, because I've been there too so many times. Like, I've got enough going on in my life, or I feel like I've succeeded or overcome certain things in my life that I'm not going to like, I just don't have the bandwidth. I don't have the emotional capacity to like unlock someone else's cage and go into their metaphorical cage and sit with them in their pain or their isolation or whatever. And honestly, Yob is such an interesting case for me because not everybody like starts a website like we've started here at Yob. And so on the one hand, I can go like this and be like, wow, I've helped so many people and I'm so proud of myself for like creating this blog, creating a podcast and holding these retreats and certainly getting a lot of help to do that. But like, it can almost be very passive despite this very intentional act that I've taken and that I continue to take for almost a decade now. Like it can also be very impersonal in that like, it is a collective helping of people and creating a collective home. But then what about individuals in that collective that I'm not like bothering to help, or I feel like I don't have the time or the ability? Like that's very convicting to me, even hearing you say that. And it's stuff that I've been processing too, the last couple of years. And so that's going to be something I continue to chew on too, that, yeah, it's great and all to create a home for a couple hundred people, but then like, what about the one? What about, it's not to get all Jesus on everybody, but like, what about forget the 99, what about the one, and just focusing on one person. Like that is convicting too, when I look at the outside sparrow looking in.
Well, and maybe this is like too deep for a ConvoCast reflecting on retreat, but I think that is one of the sort of, I don't want to say conflicting or challenging, just like reality. I'll just call it a reality. One of the realities of retreat, like 40 plus men who have an experience of some feeling of outsideness in their masculinity, sexuality, in their faith, coming together into a wilderness. There's definitely moments like glimpses of grace and family and like people literally hugging and bonding together and, warming each other with that, like the fire of love and brotherhood and all those things. But the reality is like, there's also a lot of, you see the pain, the isolation, the separation that each person is carrying with them, like that little lump of coldness and uncertainty. And it can be a lot, like seeing everyone with their own little hurts and own little experiences of pain and separation. And yeah, I know as a more intuitive feeler, I do think I'm an intuitive feeler. I see a lot of it. And that's where sometimes I feel more comfortable with the role because I can like be a tribe leader or be a piano player. And I'm sure you experience this too. Like you can be that role and then it's safe to engage with those people. But then the reality is you're not experiencing that bond of, we have a shared loss. We have a shared need for something bigger. So yeah, to actually reconnect with my own loss or my own grief or my own limitations even. I know this year has helped me to be more present. Unfortunately, like you note though, that doesn't mean that you can be present to everyone or help everyone, but I think there's something beautiful in us being present together because we're just stating reality as it is that we're imperfect. We're not exactly at home. We're waiting for something greater. And I think when everyone individually can like say that together, there's automatically a sort of connectedness. But the reality is you don't always see or feel that full redemption, in each individual person or moment. So
yeah, that's really cool. I didn't expect this whole concept topic of leadership and a role and disassociation, like all of that to kind of be a theme of our conversation today. But it feels like it's really fitting with the blog that I wrote and just talking to someone newly in leadership and just getting your brief perspective on that. Like I really appreciate your sharing that because it's giving me a lot to ponder and consider as I continue navigating my own journey with faith, sexuality, masculinity, leadership, and participation, because it's something that, I don't want to ever lose sight of. I don't want to ever like create something and then totally disassociate from it too. And honestly, I'll stick up for myself a little bit. I have some room to grow for sure. But like in my tribe, like I got an unexpected phone call. I'm not going to share what happened. You guys will just have to speculate. But I got an unexpected phone call literally like the hour before the retreat started. Nothing tragic, nothing like horrific or anything, but definitely caught me off guard and put me in a weird headspace for a couple days. And I just thought, we have an opportunity with our small groups. We call them tribes at the retreat. The second night, typically we've always had just an extended story time. So if anybody just wants the floor for 10 or 15 minutes and just talk about something in their life or tell a chapter of their life story or try to condense their entire life into 15 minutes, like we like to reserve the time for them to do that in our tribe times. And And so for that time, like I thought it was an opportunity to just like be a little spontaneous. Like hadn't really thought about too much what I would share, but I knew this phone call had happened and there was just a relationship on my mind that I wanted to maybe talk about and just get some feedback on and just be open with. And that was really good for me. So I appreciate my Golden Joy tribe. I was on Golden Joy this year. We have Golden Joy, we have Silver Joy, Golden Hope, Silver Hope. I think those are like the monikers.
That was what they Silver are. Hope. Yeah,
we have multiple. We're going too big. We're starting to. We can't come up with more values, and so we're just doubling down on our tribe names. But yeah, I appreciated those guys for being there. We had a really good time together talking that night, and I just always appreciate those opportunities to shrink the room a little bit. It can be daunting for some people. Some people love the 45 people in a room vibe. And others may be a little more daunted by that. So to shrink the room down to 5 or 6 people, I think is a fun way to kind of talk a little more intentionally throughout the weekend. So
well, I'm glad you had that experience like that. I definitely think that's one of the beauties of the sort of tribe and large group and everything, where it's the balance of you're given opportunities to try to show up to yourself, to others, to the extended body of believers, and it's important that all those little parts of yourself are able to show up. So I'm glad you had that experience.
Yeah. I was just going to say, thank you for leading a tribe yourself. Like I'm sure that was fun to be in another leadership role capacity. Like I'm sure you did a great job with that.
Yeah, it was great. I felt much more capable of engaging with the small group because I like the small group. Although one person for 40 people in a row at 1 minute intervals, not if you know, not my favorite thing, but the small group, great.
Yeah. We've made it I'm sure it's come up on the podcast at least once or twice, this concept of speed dating. Maybe speed networking is maybe a more apropos way to describe it. But typically we've done that at these retreats where we try to quick rapid fire minute interactions with everybody. So you get to have a face-to-face encounter with everybody. And when we were looking at the schedule this year, we were just we reached a point where we were like, you know what? It just doesn't fit.
God bless. Thank you.
We have too many other new wonderful things we want to try. And there was the worry that there would be a severe outcry. And I wouldn't say there was a severe outcry, but there was a bit of an outcry of some people really missed it and wanted it to come back. So maybe it'll come back. Maybe it won't be there every year. Maybe it'll come back every so often. Who knows? But yeah, I just appreciated for me, it felt like a good trade-off that we traded speed dating for a lot of other great things. You mentioned 2 solo times. We had a couple guys share their stories, which I couldn't imagine telling one of them, we have no time for you to share your story. They did a great job sharing at the retreat. So I appreciated them stepping into that too. It was just all in all a great time. And then the most important takeaway of all from this retreat, Daniel, was we have a new your other brother in our midst. He's in my background.
Yes, I've been watching him, staring at him the whole time.
I've been staring at his abs or his pecs.
Well, his abs aren't very defined in this light, so probably more of his pectoral majoris.
You can see. Yeah. For those that don't know, I don't have a shirtless man just standing behind me immobilized, but I do have a mannequin. I picked up a mannequin. He's the YOB mannequin now. This was, again, one of those things so providential. Thank you, Jesus. I was just at the outlets here in Asheville a couple months ago and was walking with a friend and saw that Express, this store. For those that I used to just shop there pretty often. It was going out of business. Literally the whole store, everything must go. And when I walked in there, I saw a slew of mannequins that were they used to be $200 and now they were $80 or something. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. Cause I started thinking wouldn't this be fun to dress up? My first thought was oh wow, just a cheap discounted mannequin. Let's throw a YOB t-shirt on it and just display it at the retreat. That was literally my first and only thought. But then the birdcage idea, it just ruminates. It starts to sprout. It starts to grow. And I started thinking this could be useful. This could be fun to have this. It's a half mannequin. So there's no legs on it. It's only from the waist up. So I'm just this could be fun to, I don't know, play with. We could have body image things. This could lead to an icebreaker. This could be a discussion starter. I don't know. There could be this could be a multi-purpose mannequin that makes its way not only into store product photos, but like maybe makes it to the retreat and does things at the retreat maybe. So, so it was funny. And we had a contest over the retreat to name the mannequin. We had lots of great suggestions, but clear and away the most popular, we did it by applause. The suggestion of Eunick, spelled Eunick. Like as soon as I said it, I was just like, I knew that this is the one that this is him. This is Eunick.
Yeah. Eunick.
Eunick Mannequin was his given surname. Yeah. So Eunick Mannequin. And he's joined our Discord now. So he's got a Discord account. Yeah. He's the best. He does whatever I ask.
This is part of the nonprofit umbrella, right? Your Other Mannequins, right? And then soon we'll have a whole family of mannequins.
We'll have Your Other Mannequins page. Can you imagine? Oh my gosh. I asked while we were cleaning up at the retreat, hey, could somebody undress the mannequin? And two guys promptly ran to him, started taking off his shirt and taking off his arms and, getting him ready to come back into the car. So
well, I can't wait if you ever move YOB Retreat further away from you that you can't drive. Just, buying a second plane seat so you can put him right next to you.
Dress him up. Yeah, just don't look. As everyone makes eye contact, like just have no reaction. Like everything's normal. This is
emotional
normal.
Support mannequin. Yeah,
I'm flying with my bro Eunick. So leave us be. Well, thank you, Daniel, for coming on. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thanks for the time to chat and follow up on what a wonderful weekend it was. So
absolutely, another successful time. So if you were there, thank you guys for coming. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for participating. Thanks for leading if you helped lead. And if you didn't go and you are like getting really curious about going, you want to learn more, shoot me a message. I'm happy to like share some scant details and just give you some mystery, some dots to maybe connect in your own mind about what we do at the retreat. But we would love to have you. We don't have one on the calendar yet, but we'll shoot to do another one in 2025. So stay tuned for info about that. But we would love to have some new sparrows fly with us, inside bird cages or not. We'll see. Do you think you mentioned ubiquity. I meant to bring that up. So a ubiquity of sparrows. Exactly.
Gather again. Yep.
I was going to ask you, do you think the art piece, should that be a staple? Should this be a thing? Like, should we have an art piece every year or no? Or is this just a special one-off occasion? That's what I'm curious about.
I think that's a great idea. Or alternatively, we can have different art mediums every year. So some years it's a video collage. Some years it's a photography piece. Some years it's sculptural.
Interpretive dance.
I can't wait for the interpretive dance piece.
So next year, if we have 3 or 4 yobbers who want to interpretive dance, you have like 10 minutes to show us your stuff. or like one of those youth group videos where it was like Lifehouse. Did you ever see that Lifehouse where it's like, you're all I want, you're all I need? It was just like super dramatic retelling of like someone who's like chosen a sinful lifestyle, but then they come back to Jesus and the music picks up and it's very powerful. Yeah,
I miss that brand of Christianity. Sorry.
Someone out there knows what I'm talking about. They watch that production. They know. Who knows? We'll see. We'll talk about it on our leadership call, Daniel. I hope to see you there.
Yeah, I will be there bright and early on West Coast time.
Yeah, I hope I'll see you then. I appreciate everyone who came. Thank you guys for coming. And if you want to check out all the links that we talked about today, check out the show notes, all the blog links, playlist links, whatever else were mentioned. All that will be there, and leave us a comment on the blog. And if you are curious, just keep reading the blog. There'll be more stories coming out this month, so stay tuned. All right, brother. Thanks for taking the time today. I hope to talk to you again soon. Always appreciate you coming on. It's always a joy.
Yes. A silver joy or a gold joy?
Oh, good one. Nice little callback. A golden joy for the sake of my tribe. Joy. Oh, good. A golden joy to silver hope. Is that where you were? Okay. From golden joy to silver hope. There we go. Beautiful. Yeah, I guess we're not at home anymore, so I need to remember what my sign off is. What is my sign off? Oh yeah, just until we cast our next combo. Bye, friends.
Bye.
Hello.
So sorry about the delay.
No. What delay?
You sent it 7 minutes ago, and I opened it, and then it said my app was out of date, and I had to re-download it. Yeah. Then log in, and then it's supposed to have the wrong password. Crazy.
No, and despite all of that, you're 1 minute early. So look at you, because I said 30 minutes. Now we're good. So yeah, okay. I was ready. I was just looking at my notes and getting all my buttons in place. I haven't done this in a while, so I'm trying to remember.
Yeah. My goodness,
how do I do a podcast?
Been worried about other things like water and electricity.
I was just thinking about YOB things. Like I've been thinking about other YOB things. That's true. Then yes, also, where do I find water to flush my toilet today? That would be an ideal thing to find. Yeah.